Well, here we are. Time for another dose of cricket. Time for some Friday fury. And this is going to be a single header today. It's two hot teams who are up against each other. One, of course, having the best streak of their lives as far as the start of a tournament is concerned. Another having reached a point where, well, they could either take off or come crashing down. We're going to talk about all that on the show. This is Punjab versus Bangalore, and this is coming to you from Ahmedabad. You could also say it's Bangalore versus Bangalore, and I shall explain very shortly what I mean by that, in case all of you haven't guessed by now. Welcome again to Cricbuzz Live, brought to you in association with our fantasy partner, My 11th Circle. Well, we've got another team who've been together earlier on a show, on this very show on Cricbuzz Live. They're together again, Sean Pollock and Pami Mbangwa. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hey, Gautam.
Hey, Gautam, what's up? Hey, Sean.
So the first thing I'm going to throw at both of you is I hadn't lost the plot when I said it's Bangalore versus Bangalore. A few people may be writing in wondering, hey, hang on, how can you have two teams playing each other? But there's a method to my madness, Pommy.
Yes, there is indeed. I won't say flabbergasted, but it does baffle me to a degree how many players have a commonality with both of these teams. So many of them have played for RCB in the past before and have played so many games. I think that's the thing for me. There's so many games. You can understand if somebody has been at another franchise but didn't get so much game time and then they've moved along. But these guys, I mean, you look at those names, those are important players. Pretty much all of them, as you look at them, have been important players through the IPL at various stages in some seasons. So yeah, it's fantastic that they come against them, because we like when people meet up with their previous employers and previous teammates, so to speak, because I think it just eggs them on that little bit more. And perhaps that means this one's going to be a really good one.
It certainly will be. There's probably one other combination, Delhi and Punjab, who've had a bit of an exchange program going. But really, that many players, Sean, I mean, to have the jerseys look very similar. So I guess that's the only thing they'll say, that, look, we're not feeling any different, are we?
Yeah, well, that's what I thought you were on about. I didn't know that all those players had played that many games. It's fascinating to have a look at the stats on that graphic. But yeah, definitely the outfits. When I watched one of the first games of the season, I thought we had got it wrong. I thought that when they'd said Punjab's coming out to field, I thought Bangalore had come out there, because it was the uniform from the year before. So yeah, it's an interesting one. Obviously, they feel that that's a luckier strip for them, maybe. I know they've changed their name to maybe try and bring a little bit of extra luck into the system. But we'll have to see. I think, Chris Gayle, for example, he would go down as a RCB legend with all the games and performances. And he loved playing at that stadium. I mean, he used to just deposit balls into the grandstands at will. So, yeah, they'll be hoping that some of those guys don't come back to haunt them. But it is commonplace these days, particularly after the fact that it's been happening for, 13 years, that you're going to get guys who've played for different franchises. Some have been successful, and others maybe haven't gone as well as they would have wanted. So, point to prove.
Well, Pommy, on one side, we know there's Glenn Maxwell, of course, and the moment he sees Punjab up against him, he'll have that little extra 20% to give. So I guess between Maxwell going up against Punjab and Gayle going up against RCB, there's going to be an interesting matchup there.
Yeah, nice enough. I think nice on paper for us, because we kind of look at those things. Although whatever was to prove, if there was anything, from Maxwell to Punjab, has already been done as far as this season is concerned. Is surpassed what expectations that they might have had, I think, before. So when they had him in their camp, they'd have felt, you could win us a game or two, 3 or 4 games maybe. He's gone and done it so early in the season for Royal Challengers Bangalore. And now I think he'll be quite free as he plays against them. And it's not a burden on him to turn up against them to try and ensure that he performs, because the season's started well and he's gone well. So he'll be going okay.
I think there might be more of a temptation from the management, Anil Kumbli or the captain Rahul, to go, what were you doing last season? We were asking you to do something similar. What was going on? Is there any chance you could have done that for us last year? But I think it'll be an interesting battle when he does come to the crease and how he goes about it. Chris Gayle might be the one who says something. He's always up for a laugh, so he might have something to say. Hey, Maxie, what's going on?
He's never going to be short of a word. I can tell you that much. For anyone who knows Chris Gayle, it's not just the showmanship. It's not the sixes he deposits. Once he gets into a bit of a chatter, he cannot stop. But we like all of you to have a little bit of a chatter, as and when you can. Get onto your computers, laptops, phones, send us questions. And we've got another one on hashtag Ask Cricbuzz Live. Speak and stand for truth. I love that. Why is Punjab persisting with Gayle, who's not good at running between wickets or fielding, and Puran, who is out of touch? Why not bring Malan into the playing 11? And is it the right time to bring back Jai Richardson for his pace and swing? Well, you're talking about two sort of seasoned campaigners versus two explosive T20 players. Pom, you want to take that question first?
Yeah, excuse me. Look. Just as we're talking about Maxwell and talking about, the capabilities and potential of a guy, they know what Gayle can do, and that's why he plays. And he won them, not alone, but contributed a great deal to them winning that game in Chennai, where he, worked the ball around and played an out-of-character innings where he sort of adjusted to conditions. As they've moved along and gone from there, the expectation is that surface will be better, and he'll therefore be able to play what we've known to be Gayle innings, where he can whack the ball out the ground. He just hasn't had a chance to bat right up at the front. I think that's what the change ought to be, perhaps to have him bat right up in the power play and start things off, and look to start things off quite quickly. Whichever of the two they feel can be able to adapt and adjust to batting three and batting a bit after the power play in Rahul and also Mayank, perhaps they should shift them. And I know there's always this reluctance to part that partnership that's been going quite well over the years, but things aren't working in their camp and they need to kind of shift things around.
Very quickly, Sean, before we bring you news of the toss, which is happening even as we speak, what about Nicholas Puran? We've mentioned it before. Maybe he was unfortunate in the odd innings, but at the end of the day, you've got to look at what he's delivered, which is not very much so far.
Yeah, it is, and it's a concern. I think sometimes the method of getting out, I think it was run out the one time and didn't really get to some opportunities in the other innings. But they definitely, I would think that would be more the discussion is, are they prepared to throw Malan in place of him? Then Puran, that would probably be because Chris is that kind of guy, and unfortunately he'll never get away from it until he retires. He's that guy who can single-handedly win a game. It only takes maybe 20 balls of him cutting loose, and I think that's always what the eternal hope is for Punjab, is that'll be the innings he plays each and every time or on that night. So it'll be interesting to see what they do, but I'd be very surprised if they took him out. But I think David Malan would be maybe looking more along the Puran lines, thinking, well, maybe I'll get a chance if he doesn't get any more.
Yeah, well, that's what we're going to be waiting for. One thing we can bring for you right at the top is that surprise, Virat Kohli has actually won himself a toss. This time he actually walked straight to the toss presenter and he didn't have any doubts about it. Maybe he's starting to get on a roll here. That's 2 tosses. Wow, well done, Virat. They have decided to bowl first. Probably not a surprise, Pommy, because we've seen a couple of departures from the norm, as it were. But for Chase Master, Kohli and that team, that's the perfect result for them.
Yeah, it is the perfect result. They're happier when they're chasing. In general, they've been happier when they're chasing. Or perhaps I should backtrack a little bit and say, in general, they've been more unhappy when they're trying to defend scores. Even though their bowling has gone well this season, it's an area that continually sort of comes back and is spoken about when it comes to RCB. It's first part done. Also, thinking about whether, later on Dew might come down. That's always in question. That's always being considered by absolutely everybody as they turn up at the various stadiums.
It's one strange one, Sean. We've been trying to figure that out. We've been asking whoever has actually walked out to that ground, because day one in Ahmedabad, it was like a swimming pool. Day two was dry as a bone. They had a dust storm. It couldn't be more contrasting.
Yeah, that's why I always have this argument about the weather guys. They can tell you what's going to happen in 25 years and we're going to have a climate change and this, but they can't tell me what's going to happen tomorrow, and they can't tell me if there's going to be dew at the ground. It's always a concern. I think what the teams tend to do is they rather just cover themselves by saying, listen, there's a chance that it might come about, and if it does come in a severe dose, it really does put us under pressure. And it fits the RCB game plan, doesn't it? They love chasing. So they'll think, okay, we can eliminate that. We can go to our strengths of how deep our batting is, and let's have a ball first.
Yeah, well, for Punjab, it's familiar territory. I mean, whether or not it's been a winning sort of situation for them or not is a different matter. But 5 out of 6 games so far, and this is game number 7 for them, they've batted first, Pommy. So it may not be their favored suit, but at least they're doing something that they've been familiar with in this tournament so far. And maybe it's a chance to try and fix it and do better than they've done in previous few occasions.
Yeah, I think also what happens with a side that's struggling and when they have to bat first, there's that little bit less pressure, I believe, anyway, in that there isn't a score on the board. You kind of put the pressure you put on yourself is about expectation with regard to perhaps targets that you would set when it comes to what kind of surface you have on the day. It means then that whoever it is who's up at the top, and we expect it would be KL and Mayank, they'd start up and they would, work out what it is that they require on the surface, and they'll play according to that. And hopefully they do not estimate too low or too high for that matter, and then not play the way that they should. If they can work that out first up, take advantage of those first 6, then no one's really under pressure. They can hopefully unlock the rest of their batting order and get to what is a defendable score.
Well, hold that thought, Pommy. Before you make too many elaborate plans for Mayank Agarwal, he is not playing. He is out with an... Yeah. Well, maybe it's an opportunity there. Maybe it takes the entire shuffling of the batting order out of the equation. Gentleman called Christopher Henry Gayle walks straight up to the top of the order, and it solves that problem. Not that you want Mayank Agarwal to be out, but we believe it's a niggle. There are actually 3 possible changes, which we'll come to in a moment. But first reaction, Sean Pollock, enforced Gayle opening the batting. Maybe a good thing?
Yeah, it might work into the advantage. But even still, I mean, even if Gayle does go up top, I'd prefer to have Mayank come in at 3. I mean, he's been in good touch, particularly last year, and he's a class player. And Pommy's point is so valid, but I think for them, the real issue that they have is the bowling attack. I don't feel there's enough strength there, there's enough depth there to put teams under pressure once they've even got a decent score on the board. And they've got the might of the RCB batting lineup, which, as we've talked about, has got some serious depth. So I think they need to post something substantial. And sometimes going out with that mindset does put pressure on you as a batting team. So to have lost one of the big 3 at the top is going to maybe challenge them a little bit. I mean, even that one game, Sanju Samson, where he almost got Rajasthan over the line, what was it, 220 that they posted, and their bowlers still struggled to even keep that and defend that. So I think that will be the big ask. I'm fascinated to hear what the other changes are, and maybe it is the bowling line that they've decided to strengthen and give themselves a few more options.
Well, let's keep it simple for a start. Let's bring the lineup to you that's got only one solitary change. And that too is a change that is perhaps looking at the opposition batting. Not sure has anything to do with the form of the person who's gone out, which in this case is Washington Sundar. Shahbaz Ahmed comes in. He's played before, of course, even batted at number 3 at some point in the tournament. So interesting change there. First reaction, Pommy, could it be because of left arm spinner versus what Washington Sundar's done so far?
Yeah, I think so. And the reason I say I think so is because he's kind of been in and out of the team in the tournament to this point. He's someone who they want in there, who they'll use when they can pick him. And teams are like that. And when teams are going well, there will be that one place, maybe two places that they'll shift every now and again. And many times it's a seamer spinner or an all-rounder who's a spinner and an all-rounder who's a seamer, that sort of thing. But Shahbaz coming into the side, I think, is, Kohli has spoken about his bowling changes or his bowling options being sufficient, and it ensures that still remains.
Fair enough. But otherwise, the real mantra, Sean, for this team, and we briefly referred to them as, are they the new Chennai? Purely from a point of view of just getting that balance, that stability, and being able to walk into every game saying, we don't need to make too many changes, maybe one tactical one, maybe one for an injury. That's about it. That's the difference for RCB 2021.
Yeah, definitely depth. I think we discussed it last night as well. In the past, it was a little bit top heavy. There were a lot of the batting contributions came from the top, and they almost tended to go with maybe just the 5 bowling options. Whereas this time round, they've got the depth. Jamison, I think, was a wonderful acquisition for them, gives them depth in their batting. And his bowling something different. He's very tall. He gets a lot of bounce, extracts it from the surface. And in the past, they used to have almost 3 similar seamers and then rely on the spinners, in particular Chahal. So I just think they're a better unit. I think they've got their plans. I think Virat at the top of the order also makes him feel comfortable. Padikkal's been a good addition, and he's picked up the ante this season, which is making him even more of an exciting prospect. You've got the form of Maxwell and de Villiers, and then we talk about the depth. So they're a good unit. As I've said this tournament so far, I think we've still got to see the best of Chahal. I think he struggled a little bit confidence-wise. I think it was a big blow for him having to sit on the side for India. Sometimes you don't understand or you underestimate the effect that has on individuals and their confidence. So it'll be nice for them, and I think they'll be quite happy if Chahal manages to bounce back. Sundar, I am surprised with. You've got those 2 left-handers, so it does seem like a bit of a surprise. And I thought he's actually gone pretty well, but maybe he's got a niggle.
Yeah, it could just be. We haven't got any confirmation about that, but what we do have is the confirmation of multiple changes for the team from up north, who we were nicknaming Bangalore's second 11. But for the moment, let's have a look at how many non-Bangalore players have actually come in, or non-former Bangalore players have come in. That's a lot of changes. That's 3 big changes there. The international change, of course, is Enriquez goes out and in comes back Riley Meredith. Harpreet Brar comes in for Arshdeep Singh. And in the middle order, we've got Prabh Simran, who comes in for the missing Mayank Agarwal. So Deepak Hooda obviously gets a boost up. Puran maybe gets a chance to actually get some serious batting time, Pommy.
Yeah, they would have. I'm sure they would have considered what we were talking about with David Malan, and whether to bring him in or not. But Puran, and I think it was last season where there were 1 or 2 innings where he absolutely smashed it, and they kind of came to know exactly what he can do as well. And they're hoping that it's just a case of, little bit of bad luck. Don't face too many balls early on, and you don't have runs to back you up and to show what you can do. As far as that order is concerned, I like how it looks now. With Chris right up at the top. As Sean says, though, Mayank is a big miss. However, Deepak Hooda is also a good player. I think he can do a job and has done over the years in fits and starts here and there. It's a lot more responsibility on him, the fact that Mayank Agarwal is not there. And hopefully he kind of steps up to the plate. And as far as the bowling is concerned, it's a pity about Arshdeep. He good youngster, he got a hold of him here and there, and he was going okay, but a case of, results. We were talking about that with Puran, and he has a body of work which might not be here that they can kind of fall back on, whereas Arshdeep doesn't really. And so youngster hasn't gone so well. They think, he's shown good signs, but it's not come out the right way. And so they're going to shift it and change it. Hopefully not too tough a start for who comes in.
Quick reaction, Sean, for the overseas replacement, because we saw Riley Meredith, lots of potential, lots of pace, but not necessarily translating that into wickets. I remember that game when there were 4 overs to go, strategic timeout. There was Meredith, Richardson, Shami, and Arshdeep. And Arshdeep was the one given the most responsibility for that last over. And if anyone, it was Riley Meredith who got taken to the cleaners.
Yeah, I think it's been dictated to by the lineup they're coming against. Hendricks, he might be able to get an over or 2 at times, but I think they've gone on an absolute banker to try and get 4. It's a bigger ground. I think he struggled a little bit in Mumbai with that surface and the way it came on and the small nature of the ground. But I'm excited by what I've seen from him. I like his pace. I like the way he charges in. I think he'll still have to learn a few skills, particularly when you're coming from your strength being in an Australian environment, and then how do you learn the art of adjusting to the surfaces in India. But I must admit, when I look at the 2 lineups, if you compare them, just put them next to each other, there's one that looks a lot stronger than the other. So it'll be some individual performance, I think, from Punjab if they are to come out on top, because that RCB one does look a lot stronger.
But it's not a coincidence that they happen to find themselves a lot higher on that points table. But what we're going to look ahead and do now, with about 17 minutes to go for the start of play, this is the bit where you need to really focus your My 11 Circle teams. Have you got them in yet? The problem is, even if you have got them in, you need to make a few changes, because there are 4 changes total between the 2 sides. And now is the time that we've told you what those changes are, to revisit your teams, just in case you had an Enriquez in, toss him out, get someone else in, get a captain, get a vice captain, and listen for our 3 My 11 Circle smart picks, because more often than not, we've given you a bit of a reasonable pick. The colors look similar, but that's not our fault. That's what the jerseys are like. So there you have it. 3 people. We'll start with Lokesh Rahul, KL Rahul, captain of Punjab. Lots of responsibility on his shoulders. But again, when he sees the city that he's from and the franchise that he's not playing for, it seems to spark something in him. Look at that innings of 132 of 69 deliveries in Dubai. Everyone remembers it. All fans of Punjab remember it. And they did a double. Pommy, they did a double over Punjab. Or over Bangalore, last season. So they'll be hoping to at least start with the single.
Yeah, look, that's an easy mistake to make. They did a double over Punjab, because you could be, thinking Bangalore the whole time. Anyhow, yeah, I like KL Rahul. He's a really good batsman to watch. That 132 that he scored actually last season was just magnificent. It was such an innings. And what they need is for him to, cut loose again. He's played nicely, but without really stamping his authority, like we know that he can. I think that team depends so much on how he does. And I say that, every season he gets runs, every season is toward the top when it comes to the orange cap stakes, and yet they kind of struggle to get it into the playoffs. He can't afford to have a dip. He can't afford to have games where he doesn't perform, because when he doesn't, then things don't work out for his side. So I hope that, because this is an opposition that he likes, he can come to the party here. And I hope that, it could kickstart their season as well and get them on some sort of roll.
Well, they certainly would hope so. What about number 2? We saw one magnificent innings from DP, from Devdutt Padikkal. They'll just be hoping that could be the kickstart that he needs to go on with bigger innings like that. The class is apparent, Sean. I don't think anyone's questioning that. It's just about him feeding off those big names, Maxwell, Kohli, De Villiers, all around him, and saying that, well, I can stand just as tall, and more than looking good, I can deliver those runs.
Yeah, he's been the aggressor in those first 6 overs. Even in the last game, he took a lot of pressure off what was happening out there in that initial power play. I think he's upped his game, and that's been the impressive part. I was impressed. I loved his technique. I loved the way he stood tall. He's elegant. He's got some wonderful shots, but he's increased the strike rate this year, and it's been a real focus. You can see intent on trying to make a massive impact at the top of the order, and with it being a left-hander, right-hander combination, yeah, I think he's a good pick. And I just want to know if you've got him in your team.
Yep, absolutely.
We
Hope
need to
you
know
didn't
your
have
team.
Mayank. Hope you didn't have Mayank in there. Okay. Yeah.
Waited for the end, as we've told everybody for their My 11 Circle teams. You have to wait till the toss and just get those guys in who are actually playing for a start. After that, you can pick who you think will score more than others. Well, that's 2 picks out of the way. KL Rahul, Devdutt Padikkal, both, of course, Bangalore boys, but playing for different franchises. Our third man who hails originally from just a suburb just outside Kolkata, Mohammad Shami. Well, look at that record against the king, Virat Kohli. So we've looked at matchups against teams, but sometimes when you have a matchup against an individual, and a key individual in this format, Pommy, is very important.
Yeah, and if it fits into how your team generally lines up and how your team generally goes, I think that's when it works the best. When you try and engineer matchups to sort of pick your team and have the game go in that direction, I think you can run into trouble. And by that, I mean, Mohammad Shami bowls with the new ball, Virat Kohli bats up at the front. So you're going to have that matchup anyway because you want them to be bowling up at the front. It just means that you have exactly what you want in a guy who has the wood over your opposition. And if it works, brilliant. You get off to a good start. If it doesn't, well, you got to try another ploy. But there's a high probability that it does happen because of these numbers that we continually search for and show everybody.
Well, so you've got 3 My 11 Circle smart picks. Take your pick. Of course, you've got to get many more players in there, but these are just the ones we recommend you should not walk into the match without. Another person who's not part of our My 11 Circle smart picks, but I suspect you already got him in your team. And the reason we're talking about him is we're just trying to unravel the mystery. And we've got 2 gentlemen who know him really well from that part of the world. Abraham Benjamin de Villiers. I mean, we've talked about it time and again, and we're running out of superlatives, Sean, about him. But already this season, he's shown whenever he's got the opportunity, he delivers, and he delivers big. And this is from a man who's not getting match practice on a regular level, which is important for anyone.
Yeah, I think that's the key point. I mean, those facts and figures there are fantastic. 75, 42 balls, 76, 34 balls, and 48 off 27. I mean, that's basically put his team into a winning situation on all 3 occasions. But I think the key is the point you make up front is that when he comes into a tournament like this, if he has 2 or 3 innings where he doesn't get going, that can be the real battle. So to have walked in that first game, to have carved it away on a difficult surface in Chennai, that basically has set him up. And as we mentioned last night with him and Maxwell, was the big performances that they've had. They're not worried about where the next performance is coming from or if they're going to get a performance. They're just going out there each time now. They're into the tournament. They've got a score. They've had time in the middle. The confidence is high. And they're looking to now win games for their team. Whereas other sides have got individuals who hoping to get a score, hoping to contribute, hoping to middle some. The case in point is not that with ABD, and you know, I mean, the fact that he plays so little cricket and then can come and still dominate, and the way he goes about it, it's thoroughly entertaining. You know, even if his team don't win, I'm sure the neutrals out there, they all want him to get runs because you just enjoy those 40 balls that you watch of him.
Yeah, well, the other question that keeps getting asked now that he's getting a little bit of game time. And I think all of us ask it. It's not just folks back home, Pommy. The $1 million question. Is
only rand? I think try $2 million or something like that.
Yeah, you bet. I think this question deserves a little more than that. So really, what is the answer to that? Can we see him back in South African colours? We love him back. The question is, will we?
Oh, yeah. If I could answer definitively, I would. What I will say, though, is with all the chit-chat about it, essentially, I would say it comes down to the man himself. it's nobody who said AB de Villiers ought to retire. In fact, everybody said, what are you doing? We want to see you playing some more. We need you. Stay, please. Don't go. All of that, right? But he decided that he wanted to retire from international cricket. And now, in order to be back, I think what has to happen is that he's going to say, hey, I'm here. I'm available. I'm not retired. I want to play in X World Cup. What do I have to do? Done. And I reckon if he does that, that's it. He'll be back in without any trouble whatsoever. So we'll have to see what happens after this. I don't know what you think, Sean.
Yeah, well, I just got to go on what Mark Boucher said, is that he'd been in conversations with him before heading to the RPL, and he looks forward to further conversations with him afterwards. So, yeah, I agree with Palmer. When you watch what he does, you also look at someone like a Faf Duplessis. These guys you might have considered, will they or won't they? When they see them performing like they are in these kind of conditions, knowing that the World Cup's supposed to happen either in India or if things don't go according to plan in the UAE, it's the surfaces that they are excelling on, and the experience they bring, the calmness they bring because of the amount of games they've played. It does seem like a no-brainer. It just is going to go down to availability, and I think that will be the key point, which will be discussed after this tournament ends.
And Sean and Gautam, I don't know if there needs to be discussion. So when these discussions are happening, I'm not entirely sure what the discussion is. What is the discussion? Isn't it a simple case of I may be de Villiers, I am available for selection to play in the World Cup, the 2020 World Cup. So pick me if you'd like, and I'll be there. As simple as that. Just as when he decided that he was done with international cricket publicly, he went and he said, I have had enough. Circumstances are X and Y and Z, and they've led me to this decision. I am retiring from international cricket. Done. Respect the guy's decision, despite people saying, oh, please play some more. Why are you going? Don't go. Come back. All of this. He ultimately must decide, and he must kind of front up and say, this is what's happening. Move along. No matter how many discussions he has with whoever, unless he says that, then he essentially is not available, is he?
Yeah, we've had a few hints from him, but I think as both gentlemen have alluded to, hints are not enough. It's about going out there and making that statement, going out or coming back in. It's got to be definitive. One thing that is definitive is numbers. Numbers really don't lie. And we said at the very start of the show that this is game number 7. And game number 7 has tended to be pivotal for Punjab. That's where we got into this whole take off or land discussion. Have a look at what's happening in history and the reason why we are saying that. 2018, look at that start. 1-5, lost 1. Brilliant. Awesome. Punjab going to qualify. 1-1, lost 7, next 8 games. 2019, 4-2 became 2-6. 2020 was very different. Minus Chris Gayle, they won only 1, lost 5. Gayle comes into the driver's seat. Suddenly, they win 5 on the trot, and things were back in focus. The only difference was, and we'll probably come back to that later, gentlemen, is that despite that 5 in a row, they didn't end up qualifying. That's a different matter altogether. But game number 7, Pami and Bangwa, today is game number 7 for Punjab. Do you see it as a takeoff point?
I would like it to be, as I said, I would like that KL would play well because he generally plays well against RCB. I would like Chris Gayle to do some good stuff. And it's not because I have anything against RCB. It's just like that there'd be more competition and that Punjab would be a more competitive side as they go along in the competition. If I were to speak honestly, though, about, their chances as I look at things with regard to form, I can't see it as they come up against RCB. I think there's just too much to do in today's game because RCB have got too many guys in form, not just in the batting either. RCB's bowling has also been okay, particularly up at the front. They've got wickets. Harshal Patel is taking wickets for fun. Mohammad Siraj is going okay, even though Yuzvendra Chahal, who's normally been their banker, been their guy who they'd go to and he'd be the one to do a lot of the damage, he hasn't been in form, and yet they're still managing to go okay. They've got so many bases covered. It's a tough team to beat this season. And they'd have to play above themselves, certainly better than they have played this season in order to beat RCB today.
Gautam, I think we need to get that graphic up again of their next.
I was going to bring you into that. And I think we'll bring it back just to
have a look at who they've got to play. I mean, they've been average at best. They play Bangalore tonight, then it's Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai, and Mumbai, and all of those are the top 4 of the log table at this stage. So, if there's someone who's going to come good, they have to come good now, and they have to play unbelievably for the next 5 games. In order to get them back into the competition, I would think. I think it'll be a real challenge for them, because if they have to wait for Hyderabad and Rajasthan, who probably haven't been in the best of touch, and they would think they could maybe dominate those games, those are the last 2. So it's going to be a big ask for them. And I think this next week will be key. They lose these next 3 games. In many ways, their tournament can be done and dusted.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, we've seen it, but you need to reiterate that point. They just needed to flip that schedule upside down. Kolkata, Hyderabad, and Rajasthan to finish with. If only they had 1 or 2 of those teams, with no disrespect meant to them whatsoever. It's just about how they are playing at this point in time. They've got the top 4 coming up. Tough job ahead for Punjab to make that a takeoff point at game number 7. But at the moment, one person who's been going only in takeoff mode in terms of setting his questions tougher and tougher with each passing day is Joy Bhattacharya. So I suspect it's sort of, you've reached a cruising altitude of 35,000 feet, and at times you don't want to climb even higher. So I suspect this one may be just at cruising altitude. Let's have a look at today's Joy Factor question. In which particular list of international cricket records is a current international coach at the 1st position, a current national selector in 4th position, and Muthaiya Muralidharan and Sean Pollock just outside the top 10? Look at Sean Pollock frowning there. Why would Joy include something where I'm just outside the top 10? But nonetheless,
he just wants to say that I underachieved. He just wants to say I underachieved. So all I know is it must be a bowling chart. I mean, to have Murali and myself there. But now I'm trying to work out which coach and which selector is a bowler in the world of cricket. Maybe that'll give it away. Sure.
Yeah, we'll have a look.
We'll get back to you.
Have a look. Yeah.
Not that many teams, so you can research.
Yeah, well, if you're really hardcore into cricketing trivia, or you like that extra bit, Cricbuzz Plus is where you'll find all kinds of interesting articles. And we've got something that one of our new additions to an article is something that we thought we'd just touch upon for a moment. And what we'll probably do is we'll just give you a little teaser of it, and we'll go into a bit of discussion on a later show today. But we promise we'll do that. But right now, because the match is already about to get underway, we'll just remind you that Cricbuzz Plus is where you need to subscribe if you like a little bit extra. What you won't find on Cricbuzz Plus is score predictions for today. Right here, right now, you don't need to subscribe for that. All you need to do is listen carefully to Pami Mbangwa and Sean Pollock. Gentlemen, who wants to go first? Because this could just be a high-scoring match, so Punjab would want.
Go, Poms.
I'll go first. Okay, 183 is what I'm going with.
Okay, 177 for me.
183, 177. Bangalore well this season. So I'll go with that. Yeah, that magic number. It's just there. Everything happens in and around that. 3 times in a row, 171. The next time around just fell short of that. Well, actually, scores in close proximity. It means if they get to that kind of total or higher, well, it's going to be a cracking run chase tonight. It's Punjab against Bangalore. It's 2 similar jerseys, but that doesn't matter anymore. It's a team who are desperate to win, and that is the gentleman from the north. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Pommy. See you on Cricbuzz Combox in the 10th over. And of course, to wrap it up in the mid-show and at the end on Cricbuzz Live, brought to you in association with our fantasy partner, My 11 Circle.